All right, good morning, guys. It is Monday. It is the 14th, and we have a long week ahead of us. And I just wanted to get this week started off by thanking Prophecies Are Us for this delightful message. MS, your message is extremely popular, but it's not pro propaganda. Part of me thinks you should have ChatGPT or Grok make a parody video of your content. I bet it will sound exactly like CNBC or Micro with millions of followers. The Matrix is real. Well, to that, I took that comment, I shoved it into ChatGPT's rear end, and it generated a really funny script. And I thought that would be a great way to start the week. And with that said, let's get into today's monologue. They love telling poor people it's their fault. Like, oh, you're struggling? Must be because you bought coffee once or didn't wake up at 4 a.m. to read Rich Dad Poor Dad like a warrior monk. Nobody ever mentions rent 70% of your paycheck, groceries cost more than your car payment, and health insurance is basically gambling. But sure, tell me again how I just need a better mindset while Jeff Bezos builds a yacht bigger than my entire city. That's what it wrote in response to that comment, which I thought was hilarious because I was just reading about, I think it was Bill Gates who bought a yacht for like $600 million. And I thought to myself, if you really have that much money laying around to buy a boat, I think you should be required to give some of it back, at least a little bit. Looking where your heart is supposed to be, and look at the millions of people that don't have two pennies to rub together or had to put a couch on a credit card because they're so broke. Yeah, that would be me. So, without further ado, let's get into talking point number one. Poverty isn't systemic, it's personal failure. Corporate media loves flipping the narrative from this system traps people to this person just made bad choices. Because if poverty is your fault, nothing ever has to change. Meanwhile, wages flatlined, rent tripled, healthcare bankrupt families. But sure, tell me more about how avocado toast is why I can't afford a house. Let me tell you this. It takes $120,000 in the state of Arizona to be able to afford a home. That's the medium income that you're required to have. $120,000. That's roughly the equivalent of $60 an hour. If I were to open up Indeed right now and look around for a job that will allow me to buy a house, I don't think they should just label salaries anymore. I think that jobs should come with a disclaimer. What can I own by taking this crummy job? So let's say you have a posting for Kroger's, entry level cashier slash cart pusher. What at the bottom of the job it says you can afford diddly. Literally, you can afford to live with your parents, not own a car, be on food stamps, and having a woman look at you without throwing up in her own mouth while she sees a grown man in that uniform, wearing that hat, working on holidays and late at night. I remember one of the first times I was seen publicly by someone that I used to work with at the university at Kroger's. I almost burst into tears at how humiliated I was being in that uniform. And the person had the audacity to walk up to me and ask me, "Hey, Millennial Steam, how's it going?" And I'm like, "Look at me. Look at this uniform. And you tell me how I'm doing." Because this uniform is disgusting. No 30-year-old man should ever be wearing a uniform that says McDonald's on it or any sort of retail or fast food. I don't think anyone personally should ever have to wear a uniform where you understand, it's understood between you and that other person that you are a total beep loser for wearing that uniform. Any person that finds themselves making less than $50 an hour is a loser, a bona fide loser. If it takes $60 an hour to get to home ownership, what does that say about all jobs? They're all loser jobs. You are, by definition, a complete and total loser if you can't reach $60 an hour. Imagine that. I don't want to imagine that because even three people, it would take three people making $20 an hour to come close, all having to live in the same house in order to reach a point where the bank's going to say, yeah, we think you make enough money to own a home. And then you move in with those three other people, and guess what? You find out that you really, really don't like them. In fact, while I was talking to her yesterday, she said to me, I'm moving in to this new place with two of my best friends. And she looked at me and she said this, once you move in with people, we won't be friends anymore, will we? And I said, no. Once you move in with people, you're just too close. You start grinding on each other. Everything they do, from not flushing the toilet to leaving their dirty dishes around to stealing your food to inviting their friends over to having to listen to them do the devil's tango on the other side of a very thin wall, everything about that other person is going to start bothering you. But we're off on a tangent. Let's get back on track here. Rich people give advice like they were born in a cave with wolves. Just save 50% of your income. Sir, I make $2,000 a month and my rent is $2,000 a month. You should have bought real estate in 2012. I was 14. Their financial advice is less helpful tips and more chronicles of a different species. This is exactly how I feel whenever Dave Ramsey pops into my newsfeed. Like, don't use credit cards. Buy your car in cash. Pay off your home. Don't use credit ever. And then it turns out, I mentioned this before, where a woman took all of his advice. She paid off her house. She got rid of all her credit cards. She was only using cash. Well, then her car went out on her. She tried to go to the car dealership and get a new car because she couldn't afford $40,000 all in one sum. Well, after making all of those boneheaded moves, it turns out that she had no credit because she wasn't paying on anything. That's the great thing about our system, is it keeps you, once you enter the credit system, you're an indentured servant to the credit system. You can't just walk away because eventually you're going to need to buy something on credit, whether that's furniture, whether that's paying for a wedding, if that's what you decide to do with your life. In fact, I was just telling her yesterday, the number one cause of divorce is marriage. Remember that, always. Um, Anyhow, these people that give you this stupid advice, like last week, I was at Kroger's and one of the managers was giving one of the new high school students advice on how to build credit. And I'm like, she's 18. How are you going to tell her to buy stocks with her minimum wage job? Like, he just rattled off all of these things that she should do. And I'm like, I just looked at him like, she's really proud about having a couple $100s for the first time in her bank account. Like, it's her money. I'm just like, are you really going to give financial advice to a person that has to spend nearly 100% of their income every single month just on survival? Pros don't have money. They don't need your financial advice. And as a person that's worked at the bottom most of my life, every customer thinks they can save you from yourself by just telling you to get a better job. And I just look at them like, if I could get a better job, why would I be in this uniform? Do you think I wear this uniform because it makes me look good? Or because I hate myself so much that I like to humiliate myself every day by making the minimum wage? These people just don't get what it means to be poor. They're living in a fantasy world where everyone is one paycheck away from hitting the mother lode. Like, next week, I'm going to invest my paycheck. I'm going to buy some stocks. and then I'm going to leave the wage cage behind. That's not true for anyone that's wearing a uniform or is making under $60 an hour. You can't be comfortable. The system won't let you be comfortable because every person that gives up on the wage cage is a person that is no longer making money for rich people. So when these people come on screen, and the worst one is Micro, because he's the guy that comes out on screen, does a dirty job for 15 minutes, and tells you how you should be doing this job when he makes millions of dollars a year and role plays as a dirty job, and then is making faces at the camera the whole time. But that's good enough work for you, not for him. Talking point number 3. The grind set cult only works if you already won. The obvious, the, the obsession with side hustles, waking up at 4 a.m., selling your hobbies, and monetizing your passion isn't freedom. It's unpaid labor for billionaires. The dream is sold by people who are already rich to keep you working harder for scraps, while they passive income their yacht life. Real wealth doesn't. Real wealth doesn't hustle; it inherits. I've been telling you guys this for years. You don't build wealth. It's either in your family, it's through your connections, or you win the lottery. All of those things are not what happens to the pros. The pros fail at life with a massive L on their forehead and a massive L with a chain that they have to drag behind them for the rest of their lives. We're poor, and unfortunately, there's very little ways to change your circumstances. I've said this 100 times. Hourly labor is the devil. It doesn't lead anywhere good. You're not going to leave poverty with an hourly job because it doesn't work that way. Once they manage to to put that those weights around your arms and that chain around your neck for life, it doesn't go away until they put you in the pine box. No one's going to work into retirement, towards a retirement. What are you supposed to say for retirement? The crumbs in your pocket or your belly button lint? No, we poor people, we're going to stay poor for the rest of our lives. And monetizing your passion, is it freedom? I'm telling you right now, I'm doing this video before I go to my actual job, not because I want to, but because I have to. I have to keep making videos because I make between $30 and $50 a day doing YouTube. It's a passive income. I have no choice. This is the way that I'm going to pay for my yacht and my avocado toast on the way to work today. Not to mention my fancy coffee once I'm done with lunch. But if that's what's making me poor, oh my God, can you imagine? That's all that it took is to take their financial advice or buy their PDF or go to Trump University or even go to a trade school. These places aren't offering an escape. They're just making it worse. Because the great thing about going into a trade is that you could pay all this money to go to a trade school, get out and realize you're making the same amount that you were while you were working in retail. Because it's not that great. Everyone thinks that education is going to save them from the clutches of poverty. I assure you, I'm one of the most educated people I know. It didn't save me from anything. It just gave me a mountain of debt that I'm never going to be able to pay off and regret for the rest of my life for thinking it would be that easy to avoid spending my entire life as a poor person. But that's just me. I'm kind of a pessimist if you haven't noticed. But when I come out here and I hear people, for instance, yesterday, she's like, I need to change your mindset because you're too negative. You need to start thinking about being a positive person, millennial Steve. And I looked at her and I said, you're 23 years old. Wait till you get to my age with your toxic positivity. You'll understand that you were never designed to get out of this. And she scratched her head and she thought about it. And then we talked about her feet some more. And she mentioned how she doesn't like looking at her own feet. And that's why she wears socks all the time. And I wonder how a girl can tell you how many times her feet are really ugly in the course of 1 hour. Anyhow, I had to toss that in there. Always have to talk about feet on this channel. I hope you guys are having a great Monday. I got to get ready for the old job. Or as I prefer to call it, the work release program. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will talk to you guys in the next one.